that you told the story about the Houston boy flying through the plane, flying through the hangar.
Houston.
Yeah, Sam Houston.
My mother never forgave me.
Yeah. Tell. How about Charles Lindbergh? He used to come by, right? He used to stop by the airport.
No, he did. When Mother ran the cafe, and she was pregnant with me 1 month, I think, and I had that picture someplace with his boots and his parachute.
Right.
He was on his way to Mexico
To his girlfriend.
City to see his girlfriend.
But he was delivering the U.S. mail at the time. That was when we were starting, you know, the international route to Mexico. But he already had a girl down. She was an American, but she was in Mexico City.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
And then the first I remember hearing about Uncle Charles was that he had taught Lindbergh how to pack his chute.
And there was a connection there going back to the early 1920s, which would have been within the same decade, because now we're talking 1929, but from 1921 to, let's say, 24.
I wasn't there.
You weren't there, but these guys,
They were there.
Lindbergh and Hardin, and your father and Hardin were already doing the aerial stunts.
Yeah.
And Lindbergh is the one that saw a show and was like, oh my gosh, I want to try that, or I want to fly, or whatever. That's how they all got started. They all got hooked on flying because flying was such a new thing, and when they saw it, they wanted to try it. And once they learned how to fly, they were hooked. That was basically what your father did, was he would just take people up in the air, and after that, you know... No, but he was, after that, they were kind of like, I want to learn how to fly. And your father was like, I teach lessons, you know. I mean, that's what he was doing. He was teaching lessons. He was teaching people how to fly. He was making it affordable for down here in the later times, when in the lean years, I remember that. But basically, he taught flying. He taught mechanics. He was a mechanic, so anybody that had a plane down here, they needed work on it, he could fix that. He restored planes and sold them, so he was like, just like you have a used car dealership, well, he had a used plane kind of
dealership. A lot of old Video Diaz buses.
Oh, he worked on the bus?
The bus that...
Did he work on that?
Yeah, they brought it in. There was a railroad track that came around in front of the airport.
We call it a bus. Everybody calls it a bus, but what we're referring to is the German MAN automobile circa 1909.
Yes.
It is a large
vehicle.
Huge.
Oh, I played in that.
Yeah, it looks like a bus, and it's got thick windows, like bulletproof glass. The story is that this vehicle was that President Porfirio Diaz had ordered this car from Germany to be his private limousine. It even had an escape hatch out the back in case he started shooting it at him or whatever. But let's see. But it was never delivered to Porfirio Diaz because he had already been ousted from office. He had been in there a long time.
The bus was still there.
The bus ended up in Mexico, and from Mexico, and I think the owner there, whoever it was, I don't remember, he drove it around for a bit, but somehow it ended up at the Les Mauldin Airport, and he stored it in one of the hangars. With a bunch of other airplane parts and things, but it was there. We've seen lots of photos of it there.
It was back in the back corner.
And this vehicle is now part of the Brownsville Historical Association's Heritage Museum exhibit, and eventually it will probably become part of a transportation museum if they ever do that at the Madison Museum, which is the old Southern Pacific Railroad. And a lot of your father's collection would be integrated with that because it all has to do with transportation, aviation. He was an aviation pioneer. But because you've saved so much history in photographs, you can tell a lot more of his story than you can about a lot of other stories, only because, I mean, you have all the resources saved. It's all the information's there. You could write a book if you wanted to, and all the information would be pretty much correct if you don't count the newspaper information, which isn't always correct.
We got a card the other day. It's brown, it's shiny, and it's a cardboardy card. And it mentions all on one side, the Brownsville Historical Association, I think, and then it goes on and talks about the But what's the museum at the train museum?
No, the museums have merged. There's a historic Brownsville Museum and the Brownsville Heritage Museum, or the Stillman House. They have merged. They're both part of the Historical Association.
Oh.
That museum that you just referred to on Madison Street, that is the one that I'm thinking might become the Transportation Museum.
Okay, because I call it the train.
They got the train there. They got the
train.
old 1872 Baldwin locomotive
Which used to
train.
be at Brownsville Historical, didn't it?
Oh, that train, yes. It used to be at the Chamber of Commerce Park for many years.
Okay.
And then it
Behind the
was
Jacob Brown Auditorium.
Jacob Brown Auditorium, exactly,
yeah.
Craig, that's right.
Yeah.
It was at the Jacob Brown Auditorium
For many, many years.
for many years.